American Spa magazine, and I'm here with Chris Diaz, who's the CEO and co-founder of Lacuna Botanicals. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Heather. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you guys. Welcome to Denver.
Thank you. So I'd love to hear about your ingredients. I know there's a lot of talk these days about CBD and how you know you're getting the real thing and how it's sourced.
Exactly.
There's a lot of questions about sourcing. So if you could take us down that road, where your CBD comes from, how it's sourced, and how people know it's pure, and basically how you grow it.
Yeah. So to that end, I brought a spokesmodel with me. I'll bring her out. So this is one of our little hemp plants, one of our hemp ladies from the field this year. Yeah, that's one of the little clones that we just went into the ground not too long ago.
How old would this plant be?
So this one we start our cloning process in the wintertime in the greenhouse, and that usually lasts a couple of months, and we grow them from little tiny clippings. So you could just take a clipping off of any one of these like that. And then you can put that in rock wool, and then from the rock wool we'll step it up to like a solo cup, and then to a bigger pot, and that whole time takes a couple of months usually.
Okay.
And we do it at a pretty gradual pace, and then the next step is we take them outside and we let the wind kind of rattle them around a little bit, and that hardens them, and so then they're ready for the field. Once you put them in the field, they grow. They get big fast. So this one at full height will be something like a Christmas tree, probably 6, maybe 7 feet high.
Oh wow!
Yeah, big Christmas tree.
That's very big.
And they smell absolutely gorgeous. So what I always like to do for people, because most of the time when people think about cannabis, they think of that kind of skunky smell. The hemp and the varieties that we use are a little different. They're kind of lemony smelling. So if you just kind of get the leaves and stroke them back a little bit and then smell, you'll see what I mean.
It does, yeah.
It's kind of lemony, very
bit,
fresh, very, herbaceous, obviously.
It smells healthy.
It is. In fact, I don't know if you've ever tried that, but if you get one of the small ones, like say that leaf right there, eat that. It'll taste like arugula. It's kind of peppery.
It is actually.
We use it in salads, and we make things like pesto, and just a gorgeous little plant. There's so much you can do.
Oh, I love that. I would never think to make pesto with.
Yeah, you throw it in mixed greens with romaine and other kinds of lettuces, and it's really delicious. What's CBD all about in your hair? Full spectrum in your hair isolate.
Yeah.
So I brought both of those so that you could see them.
Okay.
And just get kind of up
so
close.
So what do you use?
Well, obviously when we grow the plant, we extract full spectrum.
Full spectrum.
We further extract it to get to isolate. But there's an important part too that we also are a big fan of, which is terpenes. So terpenes, when you smelled the plant and it smelled kind of lemony, that's one of the main terpenes that's in there. Is called limonene, and there's one called pinene, and those are what gives it all its smell. So we're a big fan of pure CBD isolate for a few reasons. One is that it's more potent; it's very concentrated. Also, it has no THC. But we think it's a little empty on its own, and so we reintroduce some of the components that are in here. So particularly the terpenes. This is a concentrated form, so when people make something like a massage product, a massage cream or a tincture, they're going to dilute this. So by the time the consumer gets it, it's well under spec.
Okay.
All right, so the other form of it is pure CBD isolate or crystals. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I have not, actually.
Yeah. So what do you think? Kind of like powdered sugar? Maybe like salt?
And I've always heard about how the isolates, how it's very pure because there's nothing else with it.
It's pure. It's been isolated away from everything else. That's why they call it isolate. Our feeling is that right now that hemp doesn't have the same maturity that cannabis does in terms of strains and terpene profiles. And so that makes it unpredictable. So the thing is with hemp right now, they're not as mature, those terpene profiles. If you go and you talk to somebody about what the kind of cannabis they're smoking, they will tell you straight out, I like Pineapple Express or Sour Diesel or some really specific strain that's going to have very specific terpenes. Hemp's not there right now.
Okay.
So our thinking is that we don't like the inconsistency that's there, and we don't like the immaturity that's there in the current terpenes. So what we do is we start off with with isolate, and then we reintroduce our own specific terpene profile so that you do get very predictable results.
Okay.
So we have one which is for sleep, uses sort of an indica style, and then we have one which is for energy and focus, which is more of a sativa style. And then we have one which is a hybrid in between, which is it's neither uplifting or going to put you to sleep, but it's anti-stress and anxiety. That's what its thing is. So entourage effect is this. It's the combination and the effects that you're going to get between those components that I just talked about. So you got cannabinoids, and then you have terpenes and flavonoids, and then some other plant matter, chlorophyll and stuff like that. The thing is, though, like I was saying, the entourage effect is very dependent on the terpenes, and terpenes are new for most people. Like when we talk to them about terpenes, they're like, "What are you talking about, man?" But now it's in the cannabis world, it's better understood. So our belief is that the entourage effect it's got to be consistent. Otherwise, people who are using it therapeutically, like a massage therapist, let me put it this way. Think about the wine world. So in the wine world, it's very common for people to talk about terroir, where the grapes are grown, the soil, the sun,
the environment that it was created in.
All of that goes into the grapes. So if I took 3 clones and I gave one to a guy in California, one to a guy in France, one to a guy in Oregon, and said, "Here, grow me some grapes, make me some wine," and I came back a year later and they had done that, 3 totally different wines. Right?
Just like if you're growing it inside or outside, it's going to be
all of that. Environment matters. That's terroir. And what is really changing is the terpenes. And so that same thing kicks into play when you start talking about cannabis. And so where people, they say, look, you get better entourage effect if it's a full spectrum and you have all of those components in it. Yes, you will absolutely get the full spectrum. But what full spectrum are you getting? Did you get it from the guy in California, the guy from France, or the guy in... And because of that, it's also common in the wine world. I love using wine as an analogy for this. People will say, "Oh, the 2015 Pinot Noir from blah blah blah, Willamette Valley. It was awesome. 2016 was like not as good.
So much. It was a rainy year.
Right. So vintage comes into play.
Absolutely.
In wine, that's charming. It's half the fun of wine. You're like,
Yes.
"Oh my God, I bought a couple of cases of the 2016 and it's so good."
But with your skincare products, you do want your consistency.
Yeah, or your pain relief, right? Like
Absolutely.
you don't want to go like, "Oh, my pain relief cream was awesome in 2016 and kind of not so good in 2017." It's not a good idea, especially if you're using something like a tincture where it's maybe like an anti-stress or anxiety type of thing. It's like, "Oh, this thing really calmed me down last year, but this year I'm like, oh,
It's making it worse.
It's making it worse, right? So the terpenes, we don't like inconsistency that full spectrum brings along to the table. Instead, we sort of see the pieces of the spectrum as being sort of like Legos that you can stack exactly the way that you want, so you get very precise results.
Okay.
So the next step of that, aside from the terpenes, is the cannabinoids. So the other part about cannabinoids is that people will often say, well, there's something like, over 100 different cannabinoids. But I can tell you, when we get our plants tested that we grow, and all the farmers that we talk to, there will be 5, maybe 6 present.
Oh, really?
All of the other ones will say ND, non-detectable.
Oh, that's interesting.
So maybe those...
So are they usually the same 5, though?
Oh, yeah. So it'll be CBD, THC, CBG, CBN, CBC, and all the precursors.
Okay. But I'm assuming that as time goes by and technology gets better and people will discover new ones and you'll be...
Well, they know about a lot of them, but they haven't tested them yet, really. So the thing about testing them or researching them, that's what we now have at our disposal, right? They'll breed varieties that will kick out more CBG, for instance, or more CBN. And so things like CBG is really interesting. That one, they kind of call it the mother cannabinoid. From that one, you get CBD or THC. It's kind of the top level one. Okay. All right. But CBG itself, we don't know nearly as much about it as we know about CBD and THC. Right. But research, I think, in the near years is going to give us more information about that. Or CBN is supposed to be good for sleep.
Do you think there might be one that's even more effective than CBD?
So CBG is supposed to be really good. Yeah.
CBN. Want to use it for.
I think we're just scratching the surface,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
So that's why I think that the concept of isolation is very important. If I take them and I say, well, all right, let's take CBD and THC out of the picture and start testing other individual ones, figure out what they're good at, and then I can combine them together however I see fit. I think this is going to be the future. It's certainly our philosophy is to take a very controlled, repeatable approach to the cannabinoids that we use and the terpenes that we use.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.